Let's review a few of your homework problems together. This will give you a nice review of what we've learned up to this point in Unit 10. Let's take a look at 2A on page 214 of your extra practice book. In this problem, I see a bunch of lines here intersecting, and we've learned a few rules. We've learned that all lines intersecting at a point will always add up to 360 degrees. We've also learned that angles on a straight line will add up to 180. And we've also learned that intersecting lines, straight lines, have equivalent or equal opposite vertical angles. So I want to think about all of those rules, and I want to think, what can help me solve this problem here? Well, I know that all of these will equal 360 degrees, but maybe there's an easy way to solve it that has to do with lines, because I see that there's two straight lines right here. And if I tried to use the 360 degree rule, I have a lot of missing parts. Since these are straight lines, I know a couple of things. I know that all the angles on one side of one of these lines, so if I look at this one, all these three angles will equal 180. I know that these two angles will equal 180. If I look at this line here, I know that these three angles will equal 180, and the same thing on the other side of that line. I also know that vertically opposite lines are equal. So you could have solved this a whole bunch of different ways. But one way you could have solved it, if you looked at this line here, you would see that 1, 2, 3 of these angles will add up to 180 degrees. And they tell you that this is a right angle, which is 90 degrees. So if I know that these three angles are going to add up to 180, I could solve this by adding 90 and 60 and getting 150. And then since they equal 180, the other part is going to be A. 150 plus A equals 180. How do I find that missing part? We subtract. 180 minus 150 equals 30 degrees. So angle A equals 30 degrees. Now remember, these are like puzzles, so there's a variety of ways that you could have solved them. If I went over every way here, this would be a 10-minute video. But I will go over one other way that you could have possibly solved it. Another way that you could have solved it is by looking at this straight line instead. If you looked at this straight line instead, and you looked at these three angles will equal 180, you also could have solved the problem. Because since this is 90 degrees, these are two straight lines intersecting, means that the opposite angle, this one here, is also 90 degrees. And so we would actually solve it the same way. You'd add together your 90 and your 60 to get 150, and then you'd subtract 150 from 180 to get the angle A is 30 degrees. That was another way that you could have solved it. Okay, now let's go down to 2B. For 2B, I see two right angles right here. So those little boxes, they're telling you that that's a right angle, which means that it's 90 degrees. To solve this one, you have to use the 360 degree rule, that all of these points add up to 360 degrees. And the reason you have to use that rule is because there's not any straight intersecting lines. You'll notice that all of these lines bend at the center point. So I can't use the rules that I used up for 2A. Now I can solve by adding together the points that I know. I'm going to do 130 plus 90 plus 90, because I know that all of those plus B, which I don't yet know, are going to equal 360 degrees. So let's add those together. I know that 90 and 90 is 180, so I'm going to then add 130 and 180, which equals 310. Now we know that 310 plus that unknown angle B is going to equal 360. How do we find this missing part? Well, we're going to have to subtract, right? So I'm going to have to subtract 310 from 360, and I get 50 degrees. So angle B equals 50 degrees, and we figured that out using the rule of sum of angles at a point. All right, now let's take a look at C on this page. Again, just like the first one, I could use a variety of rules. I know that sum of angles at a point equals 360, but pay attention to those straight lines. This is a straight line, and so is this one. This here does not extend on the other side, so This segment is a straight line, but it's not intersecting at the center point, so I'm not going to highlight that one. I know that vertically opposite angles in intersecting lines are equal. That means that this angle and this angle are equal, and it means that this angle here and this whole angle on this side also are the same. So I can solve this in one step. I know that 80 plus C here equals 140 degrees. This is 140 degrees, and this is the vertically opposite angle, which is the same. So to find this unknown part, we're going to subtract. 140 minus 80 equals 60. So that means that angle C equals 60 degrees. So I've just flipped to page 217 in the extra practice book, and I want to review G with you. On this problem here, all I need to know is a rule about straight lines. This is a straight line here, right? And I know that the sum of angles on a line equal 180. They tell me that this here is a right angle, which means that it is 90 degrees. I know that this angle plus this angle plus this angle will equal 180 degrees because they fall on a line. So I want to add 90 plus angle G plus 45 degrees, and they will all equal 180. I'm going to add together the two parts that I know. So let's add together 90 and 45. I get 135. Next, I'm going to subtract the parts I know, 135, from 180. 180 minus 135 equals 45 degrees. That means that angle G is 45 degrees. You also may have seen that if this is 90 degrees and the whole line is 180, maybe in your head right away you did 180 minus 90 equals 90 degrees. And then you'd know these two angles have to add up to 90 degrees. And you could have subtracted the part you know, 45, from 90 degrees, and you also would have gotten 45 degrees. All right, let's look at the one just below this. This one we could solve in one step. We learned a rule in class about triangles and their exterior angles. And what we learned is that the exterior angle here is always going to be equal to the sum of the interior opposite angles. So these two angles will always equal this angle here. So to solve for H, we're going to need to add 75 plus 50. And I get 125 degrees. So angle H equals 125 degrees. Oops, I never boxed my answer up above. Angle G is 45 degrees. All right, back down to H. Angle H is 125 because we know that the exterior angle is equal to the opposite interior angles of a triangle. And let's just think about why that rule works. That rule works because this angle here is the missing part in both the triangle and the line. The sum of the angles in a triangle equals 180 degrees, and the sum of angles on a line also equal 180 degrees. Okay, those are the ones I wanted to review with you today. Make sure to check all of your answers in the back of the book. You can check your answers to the other problems that I didn't review with you on the video there. And I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll have a checkup in class tomorrow so I can see how you're doing on these first 3 chapters. Bye.